Okay, on to lesson 2 of unit 5, collecting like terms with brackets. Okay, so in the previous lesson, we just learned how to collect like terms. So, for example, we did something like 2x squared plus 5x squared minus 6. And we know that that's simplified to adding 2x squared plus 5x squared, we got 7x squared, and then we kept the minus 6 as it was. Well, in this current lesson, we're going to add brackets into the mix. So it's going to just build on what we learned from the previous lesson. And we're just going to add those brackets, like I said. And so first, let's discuss a scenario where you may see brackets showing up in our expression. Okay, so let's take a look at a situation. And here it is here. So it says, in math, sometimes we use brackets to show an expression for something. For example, if we are trying to find the perimeter of a shape and its sides have variables in it. Okay, so let's say that this were our width and this were our length. Okay, and our length expression was 2x minus 1. Okay, so 2 times a number minus 1. And our expression for the width was 2 times a number plus 3. Okay, so when that is the case, okay, when that happens, and you are trying to find the perimeter of that shape, okay, we will need to use brackets, and I'll explain why in a second. So the perimeter of a rectangle is length plus width plus width, right? You add up all four sides of the rectangle. So if we were to write this out, we would get 2x minus 1. You have to put that 2x minus 1 in brackets. Anytime you are replacing a letter, in this case we're replacing L with 2x minus 1, you have to put it in brackets because it's 2x minus 1 plus another entire 2x plus 1 plus an entire 2x plus 3 for the width and another 2x plus 3 for the other width here. Of course, there's two widths and two lengths. So we have to use brackets in this case. Anytime you replace a letter with either a number or an expression, you always use brackets because we are taking this whole expression and adding this whole expression to it. We're not just adding 2x to it, we're adding all of 2x plus 1. So because we're adding all of 2x plus 1, you would put that in brackets to show that it's the entire 2x plus 1 that we're adding to it. And when we have that situation, okay, you can see that nothing really changes here. Oh, and I just realized that it's not 2x plus 1 here, it's 2x minus 1. Okay, when we have that situation and we are adding these brackets together, that nothing really changes. We almost don't even need to show the brackets because when we're adding them together, it ends up being the same thing anyways. Like you end up getting plus 2x and then you have a plus minus 1. Okay, so you have a plus 2x and then a plus minus 1. Well, a plus and a minus side by side is just equal to minus here. So it's almost, if you could remember that if we're adding these brackets together, you can just drop the brackets. You don't necessarily need them. But you want to understand that you should use brackets to begin because when we move on to the next question, we're going to be subtracting. And you're going to see that when we subtract, we get a slight difference whether we have brackets or not. Okay? When you're adding, it doesn't make a difference. You still have 2x minus 1 plus 2x minus 1 plus 2x plus 3 plus 2x plus 3. Okay? Nothing changes. At this point now, I'm not going to answer it, but you would collect all your like terms. You would collect your 2x plus 2x plus 2x plus another 2x there, and then collect your minus 1s and your plus 3s. Okay? So the important thing that you remember is to use brackets, okay, when you're subbing in for a letter. And when you're adding together these terms that have brackets, it doesn't really make any sort of changes to our expression or our equation. It doesn't make a difference. So let's look at this example. And like I said, we're going to end up doing a subtraction example, and you're going to see how different it is and how important it is that you stick to these brackets. When we're adding, we just want to keep good habits. We want to use the brackets, okay? And we want to keep good habits even though we know that the brackets don't matter. Okay, so here, question says determine the sum of this and that expression there. So let's write this out. It's the sum is going to equal 6x squared minus 4x minus 2. Now, I'm not going to put the brackets yet. I'm going to put them after, okay? Now look at this, okay? It says to find the sum between this whole thing and this whole thing. It's not saying just add and subtract each one individually, each term within there individually. It's saying take this whole expression and add it to this whole expression. Therefore, we need to use brackets here because we want to take this whole expression here and add it to this here. Okay? So let's take a look. Like I said, when you're adding, okay, you can almost forget about that plus sign. You can almost just forget about it. So let's write this out. I'm going to drop the brackets here. So this is going to prove to you why you can just forget about the plus sign. So it is going to be plus a negative x squared. Plus a negative. So when you have a plus sign and a negative sign side by side, which one ends up kind of winning that battle, I guess you can say? A plus and a negative side by side. It is the negative or the minus sign. So that plus and negative just became minus x squared. Now, it's plus a positive 5x. So it's plus negative x squared, but then it's also plus a positive 5x. Well, a positive and a positive ends up just being plus 5x. And the last one, plus a negative 8. Plus a negative 8. Well, when you're adding and then you have a subtraction right beside it, what wins that battle? Like I just said, it's the minus 8. The negative wins that. A plus and a minus side by side, the minus will win that. So look at what happens and why you can just say that you can forget about the plus sign and drop your brackets. Look at this. I have minus x squared plus 5x minus 8, which is exactly what was written inside of this bracket here. The exact same thing, except without the brackets and without that plus sign. You don't need that anymore. Okay? So you'll see how this is going to change when we do a subtraction example. So let's collect like terms. Let's do 6x squared and combine that with minus x squared. So 6x squared. And now remember, if you don't see a number in front of your x, assume that it is a 1. Okay, so it's minus 1x squared. Remember to bring the sign that's in front, right? That sign goes right there. Now let's do the x's. I have minus 4x and I have plus 5x. Remember, use the sign in front of the coefficient. And then I've got a minus 2 and a minus 8. Okay? And now I have all my like terms grouped together. And last step is just to clean this up, simplify it further. 6x squared minus 1x squared is 5x squared. And now negative 4x plus 5x. In your calculator, if you did negative 4 plus 5, you would get positive 1. So plus 1x, or just x. And then negative 2 minus 8, again, use your calculator, you get minus 10. There's our final answer. Why is it our final answer? Because I no longer have any like terms to group together. I have an x squared, I have an x, and I have a number in minus 10. Neither of those are like terms. I cannot group them together. It's like saying 5 cats plus 1 dog minus 10 rabbits. I mean, you can't combine that. You just have to leave it as it is. Okay? So what did we learn here? We learned that if you're being asked in this manner to find the sum between two expressions, not just two terms, but two expressions. This whole thing is an expression. Okay, this whole thing is an expression. So when you're finding the sum between two expressions, you have to write them out in brackets. Okay? We added because we were asked to find the sum. And when you add, you can almost just forget about the addition and the brackets and just write exactly how the expression looks inside this bracket here. Okay? Just like I did here. I just rewrote it pretty much exactly the way I saw it. Okay? So make sure you practice that. And if you need to, on a blank sheet of paper, cover my answer here and try this one yourself. I strongly suggest you do that. Okay, strongly suggest you do that. Here's the summary that I just talked about. When we add terms together with brackets, remove the brackets and keep the signs the same. Nothing changes. What about when we subtract terms together? So now it says, determine the difference, meaning subtraction, of this expression and this expression. So these are entire expressions here. You're not just being asked to add and subtract single terms, you're asked to add and subtract full expressions. So when that happens, write down the expressions in brackets. Okay, so I'm just going to write that down. Put a minus sign because we're subtracting. In brackets again. Okay? Now, this first bracket, we can always just drop the brackets because nothing's happening here until we subtract this whole expression there, right? So we can just drop this first set of brackets, and we're going to try to drop this second set of brackets. Okay, but we've got to do some quick math first. This is minus a positive 3x. So inside that bracket is 3x, which is really just a positive 3x. So a minus and a positive side by side, what wins that? The minus sign. And now I have a minus negative 1. Okay, because you're subtracting everything in that bracket, not just the first term, 3x. You're also subtracting minus 1. So a minus and a minus side by side, because we're minus negative 1. Those are two negatives side by side, which becomes plus 1. Okay, two negatives side by side will become a a positive. And if you need me to here, I will rewrite this a little bit just to take this extra step in case you missed anything, okay? So watch. So minus positive 3x and then minus negative 1. Now, in my next line, I'm going to clean this up and I'm going to clean this up. This is going to become a positive, and a minus a positive will become a minus. So what's the rule here? What do we need to remember when we're subtracting these brackets or these entire expressions? Well, what you need to remember is actually quite easy. Is whatever is in this bracket here, use the opposite signs. Because look what ended up happening. We ended up, instead of 3x, we used minus 3x. And instead of minus 1 here, we used plus 1 here. So we really just flipped the signs. So we drop the brackets and we flip the signs inside this second bracket. So a positive 3x became minus 3x and a minus 1 became plus 1. Okay, let's collect like terms. 4x squared, are there any other x squareds in this line here? No. So we're going to keep 4x squared the way it is. Okay, there's nothing to combine with it. There are two x terms. There's a minus 5x and there's a minus 3x. So I'm going to write that first. Okay, and then there is a plus 7 plus 1. Remember, always use the sign that's in front of the number. Okay, so the plus 1, it's not a minus 1, it's a plus 1 there. Okay, let's finish this off. 4x squared stays as it is. There's nothing else to combine with it. What is negative 5x minus 3x? It is, if you do negative 5 minus 3 on your calculator, it's negative 8x. And what's positive 7 plus 1 or plus 7 plus 1? It's plus 8. Can we go any further than that? No. Okay, we have no more like terms left to add or subtract together. So what's our final tip there? Just like we had above, when we subtract terms together with brackets, remove the brackets and change all the signs. Okay, which really just summarizes what I just said. Let's do one more example. Okay, and it's a subtraction example. So let's keep this in mind. Look what it says here in the box. When we subtract terms together with brackets, remove the brackets and change all the signs. So watch how we're going to handle this here. Okay, so we're going to find the difference. So put an equal sign. The first bracket, you can always drop it. Drop the brackets right away. Okay, because nothing's happening there. Nothing is in front of it. So just write negative x squared plus 3x minus 1. The second bracket, we can also just drop the brackets, but the difference is change all the signs. Why is that? Well, let's do this step by step again. Because it becomes minus 3x squared. Okay, but then it's also minus negative 4x. It's also minus negative 4x. Well, a minus and a negative side by side with each other will become, I know in my next line, will become positive. Then a minus positive 2. Okay. Equals plus 4x. Okay. These two minuses become plus, and a minus and a plus will just become minus 2. Okay, so look what I have here. Look what I have from here all the way to the end. I actually have this bracket except with opposite signs. Okay, so instead of 3x squared, I have minus 3x squared. Instead of minus 4x, I have plus 4x. And instead of minus 2, I have plus 2. So you can just remember the trick, or you can do what I did here and actually draw it out so you can visibly see that it becomes minus 3x squared, and then a minus negative 4x, and then a minus positive 2. Okay, this is going to take a lot of practice from you. It's really going to test your knowledge of integers and working with positives and negatives. Okay, so let's group everything together. And I'm just going to erase this line here just to clean that up a little bit. So I'm going to combine my minus or negative x squared with my minus 3x squared. Now, what number is really in front of that minus x squared? It's really a minus 1 or negative 1. Let's collect our x terms. I have plus 3x plus 4x. So I'm just grouping them together. And then I've got a minus 1 and minus 2. Pull out your calculator, do negative 1 minus 3. Negative 1 minus 3, I get negative 4. And don't forget your x squared, right? Don't forget those x squares. Now do plus 3 plus 4 becomes plus 7x. Don't forget those x's, or that 1x. Okay, 3x plus 4x is 7x. Just like 3 cats plus 4 cats is 7 cats. And then negative 1 minus 2. Pull out your calculator, equals negative 3. Here's your final answer. Can't go any further than this. Okay? So here's what I strongly suggest you do, is take these questions in this lesson, try them yourselves without looking at my answer, and then rewatch the video to see how I did my answer, and try it 2, 3, 4, 5 times until you get it right. Maybe you need to try it more than that. I'm confident that everyone can get this. You just have to repeat it over and over again until you get the hang of it. And that's all this is. That's all algebra is if you repeat it enough times with the right answer in front of you, you're eventually going to get it. Okay, I know that this seems kind of challenging right now, but like I said, you have the benefit of having my answer here. So try it yourself, okay? Each one of these questions, all 3 of them, try each one at a time by yourself and compare it with my solution in the video. Rewatch the video if you need to until you get the hang of it. Do that before you start your homework, okay? Because you don't want to jump right into your homework if you didn't fully get these 3 questions here, okay? So if you could do that, that is going to be your recipe for success, okay? Is redoing these questions I just did. That concludes this video. Our next lesson is no longer adding and subtracting. With our next lesson, we're going to learn how to multiply in algebra. So we'll learn that. So that's a new tool that we we are going to learn to add to our current tool set of collecting like terms.